Hello there. Now, while I don't wish to be cynical about this great unveiling of the Epstein Association list that was announced yesterday, I did want to make a quick comment about it. So, what we are being told is a New York judge has ordered the unsealing of court documents in the new year regarding Jeffrey Epstein's associates. And I am personally less convinced that this will reveal anyone or anything of any real value or note. Yesterday, Virginia Giuffre, probably the highest profile woman associated with Epstein and Prince Andrew, was on X, formerly Twitter, tweeting, "There's going to be a lot of nervous people who's on the naughty list," as if this was some sort of jokey event. And frankly, I found the tone entirely inappropriate given the potential severity of what Epstein and his associates have done to young people. But that might just be me. I'm picky like that. I don't think it's appropriate to be doing a type of naughty but nice Father Christmas scenario around such people. So first of all, let me say this. I've been covering the issue of national and international child abuse and trafficking for well over a decade, and high-profile establishment figures are seldom, if ever, truly held to account. That's not actual cynicism, that's a comment based on facts. Over the years, politicians, royalty, and high-profile businessmen and businesswomen have come to the fore as enabling the trafficking of young people and children, but how many have been charged and convicted? Question mark, question mark. At this moment, the highest profile conviction to do with Epstein is Ghislaine Maxwell, and she appears not to have had any clients whatsoever. Part of my cynicism about this is based on the experience of what happened in the UK and around Parliament. About 10 years ago, Tom Watson, former MP, stood up in Parliament and addressed David Cameron, who was then Prime Minister, about similar rumours to do with Parliament. And nothing has happened since. That was really one of the reasons why I decided to make my film Paedophiles in Parliament, which is available on YouTube. And it's now, as I say, over a decade since Tom Watson said that. And we're still waiting for the truth about it. And about that intel, he said, that linked Pease to Parliament and Westminster. It is my opinion and observation that such people are allowed to either die off, are gagged, are paid off, or they disappear. So what did the judge in New York actually say? Well, Judge Loretta Preska wrote unsealed in full next to the names of 177 does who are Epstein's friends, recruiters and victims. The material relates to a defamation case brought by Virginia Giuffre in New York against Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, Giuffre sued Maxwell for defamation in 2016. The case was settled, but the Miami Herald newspaper, which had published the exposure that led to Epstein's 2019 arrest, sued to have the documents made public. The documents in the case have been released on a rolling basis when the first batch were made public before Epstein was said to have done you-know-what in a prison while awaiting trial on charges. Well, we all know he didn't, don't we? We know some of the names that are likely to be part of those unsealed documents because they've already given media interviews. These include the housekeepers on Epstein's Caribbean island. But here's the thing. Judge Preska's ruling gives 14 days for any of the potential names to object to their documents being made public. So that's a problem already, because the thing about justice and the law is the deeper your pockets, the more chance you have of being able to keep your name from the public domain. So yes, when we may get a housekeeper thrown at us, we are highly unlikely to get the big fish, because not only will they object, but their powerful legal teams will ensure you don't get to know who they are. It's likely some of the names that we will hear about will include some of the recruiters. Bear in mind that some of the females who claim to be victims were recruiting young girls for Epstein. I suspect also on that list will be Jean-Luc Brunel, he being the former French model scout and close ally of Epstein, who also apparently took his own life in Paris in 2022. Again, highly cynical whether he really did. I don't really believe that about either him or Epstein. I just think they knew too much. And in the event that there are very famous names on there, It's important to note this. Just because a name appears on the list doesn't automatically mean they are guilty of any crime. Also, just because they may be on the list, it doesn't automatically mean that even if they are guilty, that there will be any convictions. You need a victim who is willing to press charges, and those are in extremely short supply around this case. People settle. Virginia Giuffre, the most high-profile Epstein girl around this case, settled and received a reported $12 million. To be stum about Prince Andrew, the Queen was said to have contributed to that. Now, here's the thing. I have made enemies of people in this case. There's a shock, right? And mostly because I've refused to accept the simple narrative that they are part of. I think certain women were chosen to front this, and everyone else who could have told a darker, truer story of events has been edged out. So we've heard from Virginia Giuffre, and when you think about it, what does it really amount to? Even if what she said did happen between her and Andrew, and I suspect it did, she was 17, and that's above the age of consent in the UK. Then there's the farmers, Maria and Annie. Again, what does that amount to? Maria was employed by Epstein and created, frankly, some highly questionable and odd art for him. And then there was her sister Annie, who was a witness in the Maxwell case. Again, nothing huge. A massage, a fondle, a touch on the knee. Are we truly to believe that was all Epstein and his famous mates were up to? I believe these women and others have been a distraction for something much darker and much deeper. And again, some of the females who received money from the Epstein Fund were actually complicit because they were bringing in younger and more naive girls and getting rewarded handsomely for it. I realise this is an unpopular opinion, but it doesn't matter. I'm a journalist. My job is to ask questions, not accept wholesale a version of events. I am far from someone who shames victims, but I also know it's very easy to claim victimhood when we should also be asking, what was your role in it? Did you have a role in this? No, I'm not being hard, I'm being realistic, and that's what makes me a problem. I'm not here to rehash stories that potentially cover something far more sinister. It is my understanding from a number of contacts that all of this, many of these women, are a smokescreen for what was really taking place on the island and at Epstein's ranch. And if that is the case, then many of these women who are speaking out and who have received compensation have been part of the problem, part of the cover-up, and are not the solution. I personally like Molly Skye Brown. She's an American woman. I interviewed her before, and she was the first person I knew who called out the Virginia and Andrew picture as fake, which then a number of people ran with, including people who were busy working to get Ghislaine Maxwell freed. Molly was someone who turned down Ghislaine Maxwell's advances and has been systematically attacked by some of the more high-profile women in the case. I'm always interested in people who are being attacked and silenced because they usually have an important contribution to make. So the judge has ordered a release date of January the 1st, 170 names, and that in itself feels like theatre. The waiting enables all manner of jiggity-pokery to take place behind the scenes and feels like we're all part of a Christmas panto special rather than a true revelation in the making. Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn responded to the decision, writing on X, "I'm pleased that this court agrees with my calls for transparency and accountability on Epstein and his associates. The American people deserve to know who participated in Epstein's crimes." So it could well be that Prince Andrew will be named. But so what? Again, despite him being a grubby so-and-so, it is doubtful we will hear anything more than what we already have. The repetition of him being Randy Andy is not new. We've had it in the British press since at least the 1980s, and it merely serves to make Epstein less problematic than he almost certainly was. We know that Epstein associated with many high-profile names: Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Donald Trump, Peter Mandelson, and on and on and on. He was influential and he bought influence. That was clear. And many people wanted to be around him because of his contacts and perhaps other things that have yet to be revealed. But associating with him is a long, long way from being complicit in trafficking with him. So unless the ruling is appealed, which it highly likely will be, and certainly, as I say, the bigger names will have their legal honchos onto it to make sure that they're not revealed. You know, I want to believe that the truth really will be told about what took place involving Jeffrey Epstein and his various associates. The only problem is, I doubt it will be. I really want to be proven wrong. I just want to say I'm on Patreon, link in the description below. I want to say thank you so much to all my patrons for making this possible. It is truly appreciated. Again, I've said this before, support my work if you can, but there are a multitude of ways to support me. It doesn't have to be financial. Simply watching this video helps me, which is a bit problematic for my enemies, but there you go, silver lining and all that. Liking, sharing, subscribing, all of these things contribute to getting the information out there. I want to wish a Merry Christmas to all who celebrate it. Take good care of yourself.